Hello, everyone. My name is Alexander Ermenkov. I'm a ruling reality coach, and I'm continuing my series, Daily Reality with Alex. Today is 10th of June, 2023. I'm doing this throughout of 2023, where I'm sharing a lot of mindset, a lot of reality structure that is actually helping me to not only understand reality, not only to grasp it, but to use it and to constantly work with reality and interact with reality on a daily basis. And while I am a ruling reality coach, one of the person I was interacting with and who was going through one of my programs asked me, okay, Alex, how is actually reality talking with us? Of course, from the ancient times, the Egyptians, the Iranians, the Greeks, the Persians, they all knew that reality and the so-called macrocosmos is actually quite alive and is constantly communicating towards us. I don't speak about extraterrestrials or some other type of forms that are trying to contact us. I'm just speaking about the total and the whole structure of reality that is actually constantly communicating with us. And I'm a Christian believer, and that's why in one of the verses in the Bible, it is written that no one is going to have an excuse that there was no communication between the architect, between the creator, between the behind the scene, and those of us that are constantly into the reality. I know a lot of us don't like what is happening around us, don't understand it, don't know how to communicate, but this is why I'm presenting today the reality storytelling. There is a big tool that is put inside of us and a big urge that is coming out of us to find meaning in everything. And this is put in us for a purpose. We are to understand why storytelling exists, why if we see one dot here and one dot here, we are constantly willing to understand the meaning. We are constantly trying to connect the dots, and our mind organ is constantly willing to communicate, or at least to receive some type of information regarding how the communication between the so-called outside reality, which consists from the macrocosmos, and the inside reality, which consists of the microcosmos, which is everything that is inside of us. And if we are alive, if we have consciousness, so does reality on a bigger scale. And what is communication in order to come to the storytelling? We all know a lot about that. In the beginning was the word. We know about the logos. We know about the initial seed through which creation started. And what is a word but an encoding instrument for storing information, for storing knowledge, for storing wisdom, for storing everything that is going to navigate the reality experience and the reality structure and all the interactions in the reality. And since everything around us is constantly talking towards us, we are to understand the storytelling principle and to understand what is actually the communication, because a lot of us, and me personally, as a Christian believer, was thinking that if there is a creator, if there is a God, we should always hear something audible. And if we, the human beings, communicate between each other with words and we understand the same language, so reality is speaking to us in a specific language, maybe we hear voices constantly in our heart or in our mind. We speak with ourselves constantly in our inner being, and maybe this is how we are thinking that something is communicating with us, and maybe we're just communicating with ourselves. And this is a good thing to start, but if we want to expand into understanding everything and to know that we are communicating with reality through the principle of observation, through the principle of noticing. And what we noticed is that reality is constantly moving. Everything is in motion, everything is put into structure, everything is working under order, and we are opening our eyes, but not only the physical one, even not only the spiritual prime eye, but we are opening all type of senses, which are helping us to start grasping reality on a bigger scale. And this is how storytelling started. It started with the first human beings. And this is because we are created to be meaning and purpose type of vehicle. The meaning is where we are trying to decode everything that we look in the outside reality that is constantly speaking to us. I'll give you some examples. If we look in the skies, they are speaking to us for hundreds of thousands of years, and we have gathered so much knowledge by the way the stars are moving, by the way the constellations are made, and there is so much storytelling if you go only in this direction. And we all can move and can go into any type of elemental knowledge and start grasping and understanding that there is so much more going on that is constantly interacting with us. And this is a good thing, but also we are to understand why we are a meaning-seeking beings, because we are constantly decoding reality. Everything that is happening around us is speaking to us, so we are searchers of meaning. And the interesting thing is that when we enter through this door and understand that meaning is just a way that we are starting to communicate with what is around us. There were different types of understandings. Today, we are labeling them as paganism, that we cannot say that everything around us, that the universe, that the cosmos, that the planets, that the stars are actually alive and conscious, and we can speak with the trees, we can speak with the stars, we can speak directly with the nature. It is impossible according to the modern human brain, and we have decided that this type of paganism that has created the storytellings about the different gods, where we are personalizing the processes of how everything works and have put a storytelling that is able to communicate the same process throughout all the world. But the other thing that is important to understand when we are speaking about storytellings, and why actually there are prevalent stories that are constantly coming to us through movies, through books, through all our sayings, through all our mindset, through all our books, through all our programs, through all our structures. And basically, in the end, we are always coming to the same source, and we are always coming, if we start to deconstruct, to the same end that is always connected to the beginning. And when we move into this direction of decoding reality, are starting to communicate with all what is already put in place as a big storage of data, which we are constantly trying to de-archive and to understand and to grasp. And if we go into this direction, we are starting little by little to communicate with reality. But Alex, once we look, for example, to the clouds, we see that we cannot find meanings in the clouds. We cannot find meanings in why the wind is doing exactly what it's doing. But if we go more and more into the science, we are tracking now, we are more and more measuring things, and we are able to better understand any types of movements. And the interesting thing about searching for meaning, and decoding of the reality, we are coming more and more into prediction, and we start to understand that a lot of things of reality are already embedded to be revealed and to start happening even before they started. So in a sense, the more and more we observe the cycles, the more and more we observe the repetitions that are happening through our five senses experience in reality, the more and more we understand that there are things that are unmovable and there are events that are inevitable. And because of this, once we start personalizing the reality, once we understand that our inner experience is a vivid thing, but also the outer experience is also vivid. And there is energy inside the outer experience. For example, if you see behind me, everything behind me, we are labeling as part of the non-vivid reality. It is not part of the nature because it's part of the elements, and there are not so many processes going behind me. And we say, well, these buildings, these furnitures, these chairs, they're not alive. Only in the storytellings for the children, we can say that everything is alive in the imagination of a child. Every type of tool, every type of playing is making all things that are around to look like alive. We are communicating with them, but basically they are not. But once we start to understand that in everything, the way, for example, you are reordering your room, what type of things are in your room, why is the room actually put towards the south, for example, and not towards the east. And when you go into different type of interior understandings, you are going to understand that everything is energetically connected, for example. And because of this, we can never say that our surrounding is not constantly speaking to us, is not constantly reminding to us. And in a sense, if we move deeper into the reality, every little bit of information becomes more and more important, and our awareness and our aperture is opening more and more towards receiving more and more raw information than we, through the perception of the mind, are starting together to decode and to put into our mind as constructs and as types of understanding. But why I'm saying all this, because we need to know that there are big pictures. And also, when you look and watch movies, when you listen to music where there are wordings, when you go into actively accepting information, you are to know that there is a storytelling going all the time that is leading us to our basic programming. So in a sense, the storytelling from our surrounding is starting constantly to program our inner cooperation and collaboration with the outside reality. If the outside reality was not intelligent, was not communicating with us, we were even not going to be able to grasp what is communication, how to communicate, what are the meanings behind the words. Because basically through wordings, through storytellings, we are conveying and communicating something much more deeper, something that is unexplainable, something that is beyond knowledge and is part of another realm. So basically, all forms that we are able to spot, we are able to distinguish, we are able to feel, touch, experience, hear about, are communicating us things not only about them on a horizontal level, but also we have a vertical communication between the different planes, the planes of the form and the planes of essence, the planes of causality, and the planes of effects. So once we move and start observing our reality with totally different intention, we are stopping to seek for instructions. We are stopping to seek only for guidance, but we are opening ourselves towards communication with the agenda of interaction, of being in a movement, of being in an alignment with everything that is around us and everything that is inside of us. Then a lot of things stop having any meaning in the way that we are projecting of what we want, because we are not to control the communication. We are not to say the outer reality what to communicate with us. The only thing we can do with the outer reality on a very basic level is just to accept everything as it is and to even not distort it through our perception into giving it totally different meaning than what it actually conveys to us on a primary level. And of course, this game between coding, decoding, and searching for meaning in everything around us is creating a lot of capabilities of the brain, but also it is important long-term to spot and to know how to validate the information. And this is why even in our brain, we have two parts of the brain, the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. For example, this is my left hemisphere, and I receive all the information from the right eye. The right hemisphere is receiving all the information from the left eye. But also, there are researches that basically, in order everything to be validated between the microcosmos and the macrocosmos, between the inner being and the outer being, there is constant validation processes happening between the two hemispheres in order to receive a much more better picture about what actually happens, what is the actual meaning of everything that we are experiencing in this very moment. And even there are sayings that basically the left and the right hemisphere have their own individual consciousnesses inside of them. And that's why they even have different tasks and monitoring different things. The right hemisphere is monitoring the big things, is monitoring the fundamentals. The left hemisphere, and that's why there we go into the concreteness, there we go into the details, there we go into the specific, is interested in the small details. But anything in nature, it doesn't matter how specific and how detailed some information is, it should be put upon a canvas, upon a perspective from where this type of specific information is actually giving its rightful meaning, because everything in reality works only if it's put under order and is in a harmonious communication and interaction. If we go into a scattered, chaotic reality, even if we perceive it in some way through the theory of chaos and everything, we can find out that there is no possibility long-term for chaos to exist, and everything is working towards homeostasis. But in the macrocosmos, the homeostasis is called order and synchronicity, and all the moving parts of reality are working together. And once we start going into the direction where we are saying, well, Alex, the big problem is that reality is working against me. Everything around me is the prison for my soul. I am going to go for something better whenever it is going to come, and I'm going to constantly deny what is happening of the moment. I'm going to constantly reject what is the now, because I'm a chaser for the better future, for the better self, for something that is not. And then we are actually coming into a detachment, but in the wrong way from what reality is able and is giving us as a communication. Because there are constant imbalances that are happening between our inner and outer reality. And then here lies the power of rulership of our own reality. But basically, we need to understand the principle of storytelling, that basically and actually everything is constantly speaking to ourselves. I know that in the age that we are living, the age of information, the age of constantly being bombarded actively with indoctrination, actively with programmable type of messages, we are starting to reject them. But if we don't learn how to communicate, how to understand even the negative type of information that comes with agenda, yes, it comes from agenda, I accept it, I don't resist it. But by accepting this type of information, I start enjoying it, because I am able to transmute it and to understand that everything that is coming from this type of information of fit, for example, is trying to do specific things in my brain and in my inner experience. But it can give me power, if I'm not resisting, to learn more about how to balance even the negative information. A lot of us are so strongly going into the positive and rejecting everything that we are labeling as negative. But this is the beauty of reality, that it is constantly communicating to us both of the informations. And what usually we perceive as negative in the moment is long-term being able to be turned into positive, and what we are seeking after as accepting and receiving from the reality that only positive things are around us and we are surrounded only with positivity. This is giving us a false reality experience that long-term is creating a lot of troubles and negativity for us. So the best way that we are to position towards the communication with the reality is to see and to not label the things that we are experiencing for anything else but an information and a communication. And this is why I enjoy going into constant interaction with reality. Am I praying to reality? Am I labeling a lot of things around me as gods, as personalizations? No, I understand that the existence of a creator, the existence of God is behind the forms. But through all the expressions that are coming in my reality on a daily basis, it doesn't matter if it's people, if it's events, if it's processes, if it's things that are surrounding me, if it is some type of objects or subjects, whatever is coming into my data feed, I am accepting it. But also long term, we are able to rule our focus towards what is important to us, because anyhow we are able to filter only the things that are noticed by our attention. And mainly when we go to the objective reality, we are gathering this part of the information which is important for us. And that's why when we notice some things, it doesn't matter if they are negative or positive, instead of asking ourselves anything else, we are to spot, to notice, to start observing why exactly this is happening in our life. And yes, everything has its meaning. From everything, we can extract the valuables. Once we open our eyes, we start experiencing life, and everything that is happening throughout the day is basically a priceless interactional information that is hiding so many gems. Daily, there are so many gems, so many assets, so many beautiful things that we can extract from all this communication. So instead of trying to seek for a specific voice, to seek for a specific way we are to be in order to enter into communication, we are rejecting the obvious. We are seeking where it is not, because everything is always and constantly before our eyes, and there is no necessity to seek in hidden place, because everything is hidden basically on the plain side of reality. So instead of going into some specifics, oh, Alex, I'm able to really transform and to really go forward and to leap forward only if I go to a specific event, in a special packaged place with so much intensity, with so much energy, with so much design, with so much agenda, with so much pre-prepared propaganda conditioning things, and then it's easy, then everything just comes into me, it's washing me, it is creating things for me. And that's why it is temporary, because once I become the researcher in my reality, once we start spotting the small precious gems of reality, then we are not going to go towards the big tables that are prepared for us with such big dishes of wonderful and beautiful experience, but we are going to be content with what is natural, with what is just enough, because reality is going to always be objective towards you and never to be biased and give you a specific agenda in order to manipulate you to change into a specific way of thinking, or to go into a specific place of energetical and whatever type of imprisonments. So that's why this is what I encourage each one of you to start opening yourself towards communicating with what is already playing before your and mine eyes. And this is what I'm doing on a daily basis. I enjoy opening my eyes. Of course, I enjoy also the periods between being asleep and waking up when I'm in a very low theta states or very low wave states, because it is good to prepare ourselves for the day, because the day is giving us so much that is helping us to monitor, to observe, to spot, and to be in a mode of communication where we are constantly improving our signal to noise ratio. We understand the signals which are important to us. We are spotting the breadcrumbs, but also we learn what is part of the noise and what is part of the things that are not anymore important for us as a communication. So what I offer to all of you is to start accepting reality as it is and to start understanding the principle of storytelling, because we are communicators, we are storytellers, but we are also to understand the reasons why. Everything is storytelling. Everything is constant transferring of data and information and transmitting between intellectual and vivid beings. It doesn't matter if we see everything or if we don't see, there is so much intelligent interaction going on. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye, and enjoy being an explorer in this wonderful and beautiful reality that is constantly being presented before us. Bye-bye.